It's Gio. It's Adam Hoge.
I don't think that this is a full rebuild, but you definitely have to retool your roster.
And from The Athletic, it's Adam Jahns.
Hey, what's up, Flus?
And we're going to have measurable ways for standards of performance every single rep, every single game.
Anyway, who cares?
Now, here they are, the Adams, Hoge Jahns.
What's up? Welcome in, Hoge and Jahns with you from Westfield, Indiana. Our third episode this week. This is big.
We've been busy.
Yes.
So this is the official CHGO house, huh?
Yes. We have commandeered the CHGO Airbnb.
Who slept in the bunk beds?
There's
a lot of bunk beds.
Well, Nicholas Moriano just jumped out of a random hallway. I don't think anyone ever shared a room. Carmen Braggs were supposed to, but I think Braggs ended up sleeping on the couch that night.
Kicked out.
Which means they got into a fight. The married couple of the group. And apparently Braggs lost that one.
Kicked to the couch.
So, yeah, we are still down here in Indiana. Obviously, the Bears and Colts getting ready to play tomorrow as we record this on Friday morning. After two joint practices, that game will happen Saturday night at Lucas Oil Stadium. Always a great venue. But Justin Fields not going to play, which we'll discuss here as well. We are live on YouTube, so if you want to interact with the show, leave some comments, questions, we can answer some of those. And, of course, if you're listening as a podcast, we appreciate you. Hope everybody enjoyed the Ryan Poles interview from the other day. We appreciate the Bears setting that up out on the practice field before the joint practices started. If you missed it for any reason, please go back, check it out. It's available on our YouTube channel, the Hoge Jahns YouTube channel, but also obviously there in your podcast feed as well. We enjoyed that conversation with Ryan Poles very much. Got a couple practices in the books here. Make sure you're following us on Twitter at Adam Hoge, at Adam Jahns. Johnsy's coverage from all the practices up on theathletic.com/Hoge Jahns. You can find ours at allchgo.com. Nicholas Moriano with a bunch of write-ups and my newsletter out this morning on Justin Fields not playing. Before we get to some of the training camp awards we wanted to hand out, let's just start with that, Jahns. What was your reaction to Flus saying, nope, we got the practices in this week, he's not going to play?
Well, I almost wondered. So they made the decision Wednesday night. And Wednesday during practice, Justin Fields got hit twice in a practice. And there's a clip out there somewhere in social media. I saw it last night. I wish I bookmarked it. But it was a low hit. He was hit like below the knee. One of those scary hits where you're like, oh, no, like this could be bad. The player tripped and kind of rolled into him, which makes it even worse. But he was touched. He went down. I think that was the pass completed to Velus Jones Jr., and you're just thinking to yourself, if you're Matt Eberflus, if you're Ryan Poles, like, he's been hit enough this week. Let's get him through this weekend and get into the Buffalo preparations, if there's any.
Shout out to Herb Howard, by the way, who's watching live. He says, Papa John's will not miss the coffee. Great convo with Poles, fellas. That's still a great nickname from Herb for you, Papa John's.
Got 4 kids. What do you want me to say?
Yeah, it's just perfect. We appreciate you, Herb, very much. Missed you down here in Indy, by the way.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I'm okay with this. Like last week, I was very critical of anyone who was saying Fields didn't need to play. And my caveat on being okay with Fields not playing Saturday is that he plays next week. If he does not play next week, then I have a problem with this. I get it this week, though. The joint practices, coaches value those probably more than the preseason games. And you heard Flus even say that having those 2 practices was like having 2 preseason games because you're getting different looks. Yes, it's not fully live. But you don't want Fields,
close.
Yes, and you don't want Fields taking a hit on Saturday anyway. So now you put him in a less controlled environment in that game. So I get it. If you accomplish what you want to accomplish against an opponent in practice this week, I'm cool with that. But I still need him to play next week and get more live game reps because, and I put this in my newsletter this morning, if he doesn't play next week, it means 2 things. 1, he will not have had live game reps in a month between the first preseason game and that Packer game in week 1. That's pretty much exactly a month. It's 4 weeks, and that means he will not have any live reps in that time period. And then when you back up and you go, okay, well, what were his live game reps in the preseason? 7 snaps, 3 passes, all of which were behind the line of scrimmage. I'm sorry, but for me, that's too reminiscent of what Matt Nagy did with Mitch Trubisky in year 3 when he just sat him out for the entire preseason. So I'm okay with it this week. I understand the logic. You had the joint practices, but next week you don't have the joint practices. He needs to play next week and get more live reps, in my opinion. And last year he did. He played the whole first half.
30 snaps against the Browns. That was the third preseason game.
So right now, and Flus left it open to him playing next week, and the one thing we repeatedly say about Ryan Poles and Matt Eberflus since they got here, at least in my opinion, I feel like they make common sense decisions for the most part. So my guess is he does get play next week. Maybe it's not the whole first half. Maybe they scale a little bit back from last year, but
I would scale it back.
I don't think he's done.
I don't want him touched. I think there's been progress made that you don't want some type of little random injury to mess that up at this point. And I know there's a gap between the third preseason game and the start of the regular season, but maybe that range of snaps isn't the full first half. Maybe it's 2 possessions. Maybe it's possession and a little bit more. Just maybe it's 12 snaps, something like that. Just scaled back. I don't think he needs the full first half. I don't think DJ Moore needs the full first half. So if DJ Moore's not out there, how much do you want Justin Fields out there when he doesn't have his, duct tape?
Yeah,
out there. That's from the Ryan Poles episode.
I like that.
If Matt Eberflus needed another reason not to play Justin Fields against the Colts in the preseason opener, he got it from Kenny Moore. I mean, we saw that. We had a great viewpoint of Kenny Moore's blitz off the right side, got around Darnell Wright, one final shove, and then there was a collision with Fields on the throwing hand. It's a fumble. It's a sack strip fumble. You don't want to see that, but it was Fields who was feeling out his hand afterwards. We saw that.
Yeah. Well, and you could tell in that moment.
Eberflus was pissed.
Yeah, Flus got perturbed. But I had to kind of laugh, too, because if I'm Kenny Moore, I'm like, come on, coach. You're the one who taught me the hits principle going after the football. Yeah. You're telling me not to knock the ball out of his hand? So I get it from both ways. And obviously, Kenny Moore and Flus have a lot of respect for each other. They talked it out. But I have a feeling that was somewhat of a carryover from the day before where he took 2 legitimate hits that you're probably not supposed to have ever touching the quarterback in a practice. So all good. I get it this week. But again, I still think that there needs to be some polishing, even if it's just a quarter, even if it's just a couple series, maybe 10 snaps against the Bills next week, something like that. At least push one throw downfield in the preseason game, in an actual game, and not leave it all up. There's just too many parallels.
It's going to be vanilla anyway. Vanilla offense, vanilla defense, but you just want the experience of it.
I'm just having flashbacks, and I can already picture some Packers DB coming in here week 1 being like, we just wanted to make them play quarterback.
That was almost bizarre when you look back at it, just the idea to sit that much in the preseason, because we know Andy Reid plays his players in the preseason. They need there's an extra tempo to it. It's a real football game, not like playoff not even a regular season but it's close as you could get, albeit against backups. But yes, I see your point in terms of Fields and his developmental path here. He needs some time, but I would scale it back.
Yeah. All right. And people in the comments have definitely noticed that we are wearing the same shirt today.
Didn't mean to do that.
No, that was not planned. It was similar to yesterday when the CHGO crew got done golfing, and then we all, got ready for practice, and we all walked out of our respective bedrooms wearing black CHGO shirts.
I think that was planned.
No, that was not planned.
It was planned.
And
100% planned.
But I think we all just get in these routines of traveling and packing, and we all just have the same training
favorite
camp
shirts
clothes at this point. So
thank you for everyone saying hello to us, yelling from the stands. That was pretty cool.
Yeah, there were there were spies in the stands yesterday. There
taking pictures of us,
videos on Twitter, and we appreciate.
There's a picture of us with George McCaskey.
I saw that. Appreciate George coming over and chatting during practice yesterday, and he was very excited about the Cubs' victory over the White Sox. And it was, I was biting my tongue trying not to talk some shit back. But really, what shit would I have to talk anyway?
No,
I got nothing to say.
He would have kept going too.
No, and congrats to George McCaskey and all the Cubs fans out there for their win over the White Sox the other night. Great content to me. I don't know if you saw that.
Yeah.
Talking smack before the game was over. I knew better. It's okay. It's all about the content.
Live and learn, man.
It worked. No, it's great. It's great. But yes, also in shout out to JD. We still love him and miss him. So love seeing his name show up in the comments here, even if this was accidental. All right, we are going to hand out some training camp awards. This is sort of the unofficial end to training camp. And then, I don't know, I just call like the next 2 weeks preseason, cut down week, whatever. The grind of training camp ends here. The Colts wrapped up their practices at this facility. They go back to their team facility for the rest of the time. Next week, the practice schedule for the Bears changes as well. They go into sort of more of a hybrid game week type situation. Practices are later. They're not open to the public. So with this kind of being the end of the training camp grind at this point, we wanted to hand out some awards. We're going to do offensive MVP, defensive MVP, most improved player here in training camp, and then breakout candidate for the season. So I think the offensive MVP might be obvious, but
Doug Kramer?
Doug Kramer. There it is.
He was actually okay in place of Cody White here yesterday.
Maybe he's most improved. I don't know. It's got to be DJ Moore.
Yes. Yeah. The uncoverable, is that a word? Uncoverable?
It is now.
Okay. He brought it here. He played Kenny Moore. The Colts have their own second-round pick cornerback. He didn't fare well against them. DJ Moore is good. Real good. All drills. Open. Even when he wasn't that open, he made some amazing catches. There's that one-hander kind of towards the corner, the first pylon of the end zone. I think there's a clip of that out there on social media as well. But just an outstanding couple days here in Westfield, Indiana.
Westfield. Yeah, you know, he just
makes it look so easy.
Yeah, I'm struggling to remember of a player that just so consistently in a training camp showed up every single day, did the exact same thing at a very high level.
I want to say it was Kenny Moore, but he had such separation on him in 7-on-7s. One of Fields' touchdowns. Is that the one in the back of the end zone?
Well, there was one where he made a really nice catch where we were kind of screened a little bit, and I had to ask who was actually in coverage.
Yeah, it was Kenny Moore.
But you could tell it was a great catch.
Yeah.
And then there was another one where I think he just totally, completely beat Kenny Moore. And that's a good player. So, yeah,
the separation stood out to me. Just in terms of, well, look what Matt Eberflus kept saying. We want new matchups, different skill sets, different competition for our players. And DJ Moore made some of these players look foolish sometimes. It was an impressive 2 days. It really was.
Yeah, so not much argument there. And I think just based on Ryan Poles' comments to us the other day and in his sit down with us, he would agree that, the DJ Moore thing's working out very well. It's making Justin Fields a lot better too. And, someone on our show last night, I forget who said it, but someone brought up the fact, because we were being critical of PJ Walker. He's really struggled, but, he hasn't been working with DJ Moore. Yeah, at all, or Darnell Mooney. So that's certainly helping Justin Fields. All right, defensive MVP.
Defensive MVP.
I can go first.
All right, go ahead.
I go with Kyler Gordon.
Okay.
I don't think anybody's been as consistently good on a daily basis. I think Kyler Gordon, he's been out there, first of all. Every single day, he seems like he's all over the field. We've talked about this a lot, how much his skill set really seems to fit that slot corner spot. And in this defense, it's just such an important position. Even though you're not on the field for 100% of the snaps, who cares? It's just it's such an important position. And even though he has publicly said, yeah, I'd ideally like to be an outside corner, it's just too good of a match inside. And every single day he's been running around making plays. That carried over here in Indy. He had a great interception yesterday in practice in one-on-ones, in the red zone one-on-ones. I am way higher on Kyler Gordon right now than I was when training camp started. I was having some doubts from last year, and he has just been so good. So he is my defensive MVP of training camp.
So that interception came against Josh Downs, the rookie from, where is he from?
North Carolina.
He's not the biggest player, third-round pick.
No, but he made a great first impression in practice 2 days ago.
Yes, he did.
The route running and the quickness was wow.
And that's what I want to highlight about Kyler Gordon, because I thought Downs gave him in the linebackers a bunch of problems early on Wednesday. Now, a lot of things were short and in front of these guys, which is what you want, but it's the shiftiness, the quickness, the immediate separation. So to see Gordon kind of stick to him, like in the back of the end zone where Downs is making those moves and come up with that interception, could have been a better ball, But the point is that Kyler Gordon was that close, wasn't biting on all his fakes, seemed to learn from what happened Wednesday into Thursday, which is what you want to see, because now you scouted a guy, you have experience against a guy. There's no game prep for these guys, as opposed to like a regular game week, right? So to learn from Wednesday to Thursday, I thought was a positive. I'm going to go like defensive MVP. I thought Eddie Jackson's had a good camp. He was hurt. He got hurt on Wednesday. It doesn't seem to be serious. But I almost want to go with like the rookie Tyreek Stevenson, just in terms of the guy's been making headlines since the start of training camp. And I think that's more than notable for a second-round pick who the Bears traded up for, who's now going to start opposite Jalen Johnson. MVP may not be the right description for it, but he's really come on in a lot of different ways. And I think the edge that he plays with, the trash talk that he brings, has really like almost excited this defensive group. They love it. And he's really endeared himself to the veterans, to the coaching staff. They love that side of him. And you know what? He's a pretty darn good football player as well. Not afraid to get physical, not afraid to mix it up with whomever. So I think we've learned that this rookie can bring a lot to the Bears defense, and he's made headlines throughout camp. So I'll give him my MVP.
Okay. Wow, that's impressive for a rookie, especially because the defense has had plenty of really good days just as a whole.
Well, there's been a lot of guys in and out,
Yep.
Tyreek Stevenson has been in consistently.
Yes, he has been.
And I got to pick someone different than Kyler Gordon.
Yeah, there you go. Most improved. Now, I have a few guys for this.
You mentioned Kyler Gordon.
Yeah, Kyler Gordon could have been there. There's a couple guys on that defensive line I want to give credit to, like Terrell Lewis, guys like that, Rasheem Green. But I didn't cover those guys last
Dominique
year.
Robinson.
So yeah. But so mine, though, I'm going to go offensive line because he's really opened up eyes for me in the last couple of weeks, and that's Ja'Tyre Carter.
Good pick, actually.
Which I did get confirmation from him yesterday, by the way. Bears fans are wondering how to say that name properly. It is Ja'Tyre. I asked him. He said you can also call him JT.
JT it is.
So that's I guess a lot of people call him JT. So but yes, Gary Ross in the comments, you've been all over that he would get better, and we've seen that. And I think, with Lucas Patrick out, with Nate Davis not practicing a lot, Ja'Tyre Carter's been thrown in there really since OTAs. You could kind of tell he was going to be, one of the first guys used. And right now I still feel like they would trust him over Alex Leatherwood in that guard spot if they had to go out and play in a game. Ja'Tyre Carter's been good. And Poles talked about that the other day too in our interview. So that's my guy that I feel like is most improved because, going into camp, I don't know that I really would have even considered him to be, a realistic option to actually have to start if necessary. And he's proven it.
Yeah. Good depth. Like maybe a bubble player going into camp. Would you consider that?
Yes, I would say that.
And now he's your top guard backup.
Mm-hmm.
Looks good. I think there's a couple candidates you could throw out there. I think Tevin Jenkins has really settled into left guard. There's a good snap of him burying a guy against the Titans in the first preseason game. Elijah Hicks, if you want another reserve, I think he's gotten better at safety to the point where they're comfortable if Brisker or Jackson have to miss time. Just rangy, feisty too. Like he had a nice peanut punch on Anthony Richardson yesterday in the open field for a fumble. I thought he's improved. I think there's been some rookies who have gradually improved as they've gone here, but just in terms of last year to this year, Elijah Hicks, Kyler Gordon, you mentioned, Dominique Robinson. He had a good run up to this point. It was kind of quiet here in Indianapolis, but the practices before that, especially before the Titans game, I thought he was one of the Bears' best defensive players. So he's definitely improved. I think it's just good to make note of a lot of young guys. And that's 4 draft picks we just mentioned. Gordon, Hicks, Carter, and now I'm blanking on the guy I just named, Dominique Robinson.
Yep.
Guys who have flashed their potential at various points, whether it's coming in as reserve, playing for a starter, or being a starter like Kyler Gordon is. So I think it's all positive for Ryan Poles' first draft class, absolutely.
Well, just think about these offensive linemen, especially from last year's class. Remember, he took that run of O-lineman late. with all those extra picks he picked up. One of them was Braxton Jones, who became your starting left tackle. Jatiri Carter now is in there looking like some depth. And we knew at the time, I think we even said, weren't there 4? Am I forgetting one? I have to pull up last year's draft class. But
I think someone's not on the roster anymore.
Well, Zach Thomas is not. He wasn't that his name?
He was.
He got
waived and claimed, yeah.
Yeah.
Doug Kramer didn't look out of place.
Oh, Doug Kramer was the other one.
Yeah, he didn't look out of place at all.
Well, and I think we said, like, first of all,
yesterday,
those late picks, you're going, okay, if one of them becomes a starter, that's a win. We're talking about, 5th, 6th, 7th rounders here. And Braxton Jones became that guy last year. Now you got a second one in Jatiri Carter, and then like Doug Kramer's emerged here almost out of necessity because so many guys are banged up. Cody Whitehair goes out yesterday. Lucas Patrick's been out. But unlike last year when he got hurt early in training camp and then we didn't hear from him all year, he's been out there every day grinding, and I think he can be a very serviceable backup center, a guy that you can trust. Sound like yesterday, the way Flus talked about him with the calls, protections.
It's kind of high praise, wasn't it?
Yeah, and that's the thing about that position is if mentally you know the playbook and you know everything you're supposed to do, you can play out there and be trusted as a backup. I know fans never liked Sam Mustipher that much, but that's why Sam Mustipher got such a long leash for as long as he did too. Yes, he struggled at times, but he could do all those things, and he was reliable at the position. So, yes, ideally that's your backup, not your starter, as much as Sam Mustipher started. But that's why, Doug Kramer's got a shot here, especially because, since Lucas Patrick got here, he's really struggled to stay healthy and be on the field.
Yeah. I was just literally thinking, with Carter and Kramer kind of coming on, and especially considering the praise that Eberflus had for Kramer, filling in for Cody Whitehair, I almost wonder, I'm going to talk myself out of it, whether or not Lucas Patrick could be on the bubble, but I just think they love his spunk a little bit too much, just a different energy and stuff like that. But he has not stayed healthy. I don't think he's played in 10 days now.
Lucas Patrick?
Yeah.
10 months?
Yeah. Yeah. The best ability is what? Availability?
But yeah, eventually that becomes, a real thing. So, all right. Well, so we were talking about most improved. Breakout candidate. I'm going to go to a guy you mentioned earlier.
Okay.
For me, that's Tyreek Stevenson. If there's one guy here that I had to put as the favorite of this rookie class to make an instant impact, get some notoriety around the league quickly, I think it's Tyreek Stevenson. First of all, he's going to get the opportunity. He's probably, almost certainly at this point starting. And, you just saw in that preseason game last week, too. He's going to be involved. This is how you put it earlier. He's just involved in things.
He's in everything.
Yeah. And that they're going to pick on him a little bit because Jalen Johnson's going to be on the opposite side, locking things down.
I think Stevenson actually mentioned that himself in a recent interview, that I know we picked on and I like it.
Yeah. He's got just the swagger and confidence you like. So is he going to get beat? Sure. Wouldn't shock me at all if Jordan Love gets him for a touchdown in week 1. But wouldn't surprise me, too, if Tyreek Stevenson comes back and gets an interception in that game, maybe knocks a ball out. He seems to fit the Hits philosophy, and he's overcome every kind of obstacle or bad rep that he's had. So I think for me, breakout candidate, he's right there at the top of the list for me.
Yeah, I'm trying to define my breakout candidate. So I think Kyler Gordon, again, we talked about him a little bit. I think Cole Kmet's going to have a better season. His numbers are going to be better. I think I put this in my column the other day. I think he's going to be the Bears' second leading receiver this season behind DJ Moore. One-on-ones, especially the first day, absolutely dominant here down in Westfield, Indiana. Someone's doing laundry.
Yeah.
Is that you?
Yeah. Yeah. There's no way the mics picked this up, but thanks for mentioning it.
It's distracting, man.
Yeah, when you clean a place up, you're supposed to throw the towels in.
Throw the stuff in there. Chase Claypool had a good thing going until, his injury. Breakout, I don't know. He's had good years before. I don't think he's going to be the Bears' leading receiver. That's clearly going to be DJ Moore, but you can see his role in the offense. I think I just want to talk about the running back position a little bit more because I don't know if there's going to be a breakout candidate, but Roschon Johnson just continues to get like 1 or 2 more reps with the first team, and it's noticeable. And then he'll make that one cut, put his shoulder down into a guy, and gain a few extra yards, maybe more in a real game. But, man, he runs hard. Very hard for a rookie. Cole Kmet was immensely impressed with the way he handled his pass blocking, one-on-ones against big defensive ends, big defensive linemen, linebackers. Maybe it's Roshan Johnson. I think there's going to be, a committee back there, but just in terms of looking at a running back who has maybe some momentum to break out, maybe it's Roshan Johnson if something happens to Khalil Herbert.
Yeah.
Now, he's been good.
Now, the obvious candidate would be Justin Fields, right? I mean, if you're really going to talk about like who could break out superstardom. Yeah. But, in many ways, Justin did that last year too with, the way he
What did you – so to continue this, like what do you think of Flus's comments that he wants all the success in one-on-ones and 7-on-7s and other drills like that to carry over to team periods? I think it was spot on.
It's almost like a criticism that it hasn't been.
It is a criticism,
yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, because, and we talked about it the last 2 nights on CHGO, it seemed like the Bears were the better team on the practice field for, in my opinion, like 80, 90% of the practice. But then they get in those long 25-minute team periods where you're trying to do a 4-minute drill to win a game. And we're down sort of at the far end of the end zone and just waiting for them to get down towards us, and they just weren't coming.
No.
And it's like, what's going on down there? We didn't have the greatest vantage point, but it's just the ball's not moving far enough downfield. And so, I think that gets back to kind of bring this full circle why I'm not trying to overrate the preseason, but I do think that there's, depending on your situation, depending on where you're at in your career, there's definitely value to getting out there, even if it's just a quarter. And I'd feel better going into the regular season if you saw the offense. Not that it didn't move. Obviously, they scored 2 touchdowns and, had success the other day. But I'm talking about downfield throws, like execute a drive.
Yeah.
Stack a few first downs. In 7 snaps last week, as good as it looked, and that's what you want it to be like, it was almost too good, right? Like you still want to see what you're talking about here, what Flus was talking about. Sustain a drive in a team period, be a little bit more consistent. I think that's the only question still kind of hanging over this offense. Again, though, and we keep talking about this, I think the running game's going to be there. So, and you're not necessarily getting that full look in practices when it's not live.
No, of course. There's some of those plays that are called for 3-yard runs, which could be 7-yard runs. And you're talking about moving the chains a little bit more, picking up different first downs. Flus described it as looking for efficiency with short throws, efficiency for long throws. And I like this description because I think you're starting to see efficiency in 7-on-7s. I mean, yes, you're seeing it. He went 8 for 8 yesterday. This is Justin Fields, 8 for 8 with 4 touchdowns. Immensely impressive. His best drill, I think, by far of the 2 days here with the Colts. There's only one, the Equanimous St. Brown. You're like, okay, he had to buy time, but he still put it on the money in the end zone. Just a good drill for Justin Fields. But then things go into the team period, and it's just clunky, right? But you get those flashes. This is like the efficiency part, right? It's choppy. It's not moving well. There's scrambles. There's a sack here or there. And then, boom, deep over the middle to DJ Moore. Twice in back-to-back days. And then there's the shot to Velus Jones Jr. that gets down to the 5-yard line. Like, that's still in the Bears' offense, those explosive plays. But, like, you need them. Explosive plays, increases your percentage for scoring, like, considerably. But there was a lot of bad for those highlight reel plays. And I don't think those highlight reel plays, at least in Eberflus's opinion, should overshadow all the choppiness before it. Efficiency. He's looking for just something more smooth.
Right. And I completely agree. And then at the same time, like, without a doubt, sometimes we overrate all this stuff a little bit too, and you never know quite what's going to carry over to the regular season. But all we can do is kind of, that's why we're there on a daily basis to kind of see how things stack
trends
day to day, especially because once the regular season starts, we don't get to watch practice. So then you're going off the games, which ultimately matters more. So I still remain pretty optimistic about this offense. I think it's going to work. But if you're, when it comes to Justin Fields making that leap in the passing game, like there's still that little bit of, I don't even want to call it doubt, but just there's like a little bit more we have to see that hasn't been consistent there in practice so far in training.
I think you're looking for that smoothness, though, too, right? Like
yeah.
Getting to those quick throws, even if some of them are checkdowns, going through your reads as quickly as you can and getting the ball to your playmakers in the team drills, where he's not holding the ball long. And you love those deep shots. And it's hard to really analyze everything that's going on in camp, but at least the signs are there. Like I'd be more concerned if you're not seeing those deep connections come through. But yeah, I feel like it's been a while since we've seen that consistent, 7 yards, 8 yards, 10 yards, one of those drives where you just stack completions. I don't think we've seen that in team periods in some time.
And Noah just had in the comments here that Justin will keep drives alive with his legs.
It's true.
Which he naturally will, without a doubt. I think everyone just wants to know that he can also make that big throw when it needs to happen. And certainly we saw that a handful of times last season, but you just want it more consistent. That's all anyone's saying. And I
think Fields would tell you that's the next step for him. He's got to be better with his arm.
Yeah. We'll take some questions here too before we get out of here. There's one from Bob. Hoge Jahns, who's a surprise cut and a surprise keep for the 53 at this point?
Surprise cut.
Putting us on the spot a little bit. But
like a surprise cut would be like a Lucas Patrick.
I was going to say, that's like the first name that popped up in my head.
Only because we've been talking a lot about the offensive line, Doug Kramer, JT Carter. Doesn't sound the same. Jatiri Carter.
Yeah. Jatiri. Now we know how to. But I think it's really the Jatiri Carter emergence that would affect that more than anything, because the thing that was really giving Lucas Patrick value beyond just the fact that obviously like him as a leader, and he's got history with Getsy. Don't forget about that, and that could help him too. But he was going to be your backup guard and center. Really, he was going to be like that guy. But if Carter comes on and is that reliable as a guard, and then you feel like you can trust Doug Kramer in a game. By the way, he's probably at the top of the list of guys that has a pretty good opportunity on Saturday in this Colts game.
Yeah.
You're still looking for reasons to watch. Like, just looking at who's healthy on the depth chart, Doug Kramer's going to have to play a lot. So, we'll be able to look at that film and really get an idea of, okay, now it's live game reps. Can they really rely on him there? So, yeah, I think Lucas Patrick would be a candidate. I'm trying to think of other.
I mean, P.J. Walker would be a shocking cut, but I don't think it's going to happen. I mean,
$4 million. I looked at the contract again. Like 2 years, $4 million, $2 million guaranteed.
It's not happening. And I know as bad as he's been, they still like what he brings elsewhere, being that resource for Justin Fields off the field, having more experiences than a Tyson Bagent. Like, that carries weight in that quarterbacks room. I mean, we know it does. Look at last year. They had Trevor Siemian and Nathan Peterman here for Justin Fields. We know the Bears value that type of stuff.
The other area where I'm just trying to figure out how they're going to, and I think they're in a little bit of a pickle if you probably ask Poles, to be completely honest, but that wide receiver room right now is tricky because you got Equinemi St. Brown, who is being asked to do more on special teams than he certainly was last year. Now, he does have a history in Green Bay of doing some of that, but with Claypool out, like, that was a guy I maybe 2 weeks ago would have said could possibly be a surprise cut.
St. Brown?
But with Claypool out, like, he's in there taking Claypool's reps. And yeah, I don't know. But then there's Dante Pettis, who I still think they like a lot. But can you keep Pettis, St. Brown, and Velus Jones? I mean, you got to keep someone to punt return if Velus can't do it.
If you think the Bears are going to cut Velus Jones Jr., I'm going to remind you to go back and listen to Ryan Poles on the last episode.
Yes.
Not happening.
It didn't seem like it.
No.
I thought that was a pretty pointed answer to a pointed question.
Yep.
And that was pretty revealing. But you can't just have like all these different guys that only do one thing. You know what I mean? Like, are you really? So is Dante Pettis someone you consider as? I'm not sure. That's
I don't know
a
if it's a surprise
cut,
cut, but he's like the 7th receiver right now.
But then again, now Tyler Scott. Tyler Scott's had a very uneven camp. He was having some great reps with some impressive deep balls and routes downfield, but then he was also having issues holding on to the football, both drops and fumbles after the catch. And then now he's been hurt all week. So that's a tricky situation too. How reliable is he going to be?
Yeah.
That wide
Tough
receiver
decisions.
room is, I think the defensive end situation has become a tougher cut, and Poles mentioned that too. Like, that's going to be a spot where they have to make a really tough decision. But that's kind of because they almost have too many guys playing well. The wide receiver thing is just like, how does it all fit together? Because you could make an argument to probably up to 7 players being on the team, and that's just too many.
No, 6 is probably the max there, especially if we're going to keep 9 defensive linemen with 5 defensive ends.
Yeah.
More defensive ends? 6 defensive ends?
Probably 5. Probably
DeMarcus Walker, Ngakoue, Robinson, Green, and then is it
Terrell Lewis.
Travis Gibson?
That's where I almost wonder, could Rasheem Green still be a surprise cut? Even though he's been getting so many reps with the ones.
Since the start of training camp.
Yeah. But Yannick Ngakoue, I think part of that, though, we sort of forgot DeMarcus Walker was out as long as he was. And all of a sudden with him back in there, because Terrell Lewis has been consistently flashing.
Yeah.
And looks like if you're thinking about who's going to come on the field, don't they call it the NASCAR package or whatever when they're,
Your 4 best rushers.
You got a 3rd and long situation. That's where you're going to kick DeMarcus Walker inside. Who's going to be the guy that comes in opposite of Yannick Ngakoue in those situations? And like right now, I'd say Terrell Lewis has what might be the most dangerous guy you could bring out.
Yeah.
For that spot in obvious pass rushing situations. So I kind of feel like he's making the team.
Was there a second part to that question? Do we answer?
Who's a surprise make?
Surprise make? I think we kind of went over some of the roster decisions there, but just in terms of like position numbers, like we mentioned receivers, you got 7 guys in the mix for 6 spots. You have the defensive lineman position where you have, or let's go specifically for defensive end, where you have maybe 4 or 5 spots with, a lot of guys vying for that 5th spot. And then you have like running back. Can you keep 5 running backs? Yeah. Can you?
I don't know.
A lot of those guys playing special teams in different ways. Like Travis Homer had an awesome rep. He wasn't the kick returner, but he was one of the blockers on a kick return, and he buried a guy, absolutely buried a guy. To really get things going in that kick return drill, special teams, that's where all the fights start, the joint practices. But like that's a tough decisions there as well.
I got a random name, somewhat random.
Okay. To make the team?
Unfortunately, it goes against, though, the whole wide receiver thing I was just talking about. But that's what the question is, a surprise make the team. I like what I've seen out of 32, Isaiah Ford, who's a little bit bigger than I thought he was. He's a little bit wiry, but he's been making plays, and his vertical is insane.
Yeah.
He's very athletic. And I don't know if you caught this, but in his post-practice presser yesterday, Flus said he had a conversation after practice with some of the backups about their opportunity this week with the starters being out. And I observed a 4-person conversation right after the team broke their huddle of Flus talking to Larry Borum, Javon Dexter, and the 3rd guy there was Isaiah Ford. And I don't know how he could fit in the puzzle. Maybe he gets an opportunity to return some kicks. Or punts or something like that to get in there. But, like, does someone like that get kept over a Dante Pettis? I don't know. But
something a little bit different, younger.
The only thing I don't like about that guy is that he wears 32. It's a confusing wide receiver number.
Are those your captains for Saturday? Did they do captains for preseason game?
I don't know.
I don't make note of them, but maybe. Larry Bourne was better this week.
He was? I don't mind. I'm okay with Larry Borum as a swing tackle. I think it's fine.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't be surprised if he starts at left tackle tomorrow in that game with Braxton Jones being held out. I think Darnell Wright still got to play.
Yes.
7 snaps.
He's a
one
select
game.
starter that needs more reps. Do you give DeMarcus Walker a few?
Nah, I think you hold him out.
Trying to think who the select starters would be. I don't think there's going to be many offensively.
I mean, yeah, Ngakwe's not playing. Justin Jones. I would think they hold Andrew Billings, Justin Jones out, and they just give Zach Pickens and Javon
That'd
Dexter
be
a lot
good.
of run.
It was good to
Yeah.
notice Javon Dexter in that team period.
Yeah.
With the sack. But he was there.
There's a lot of guys that I think you can point out and said this was a really good week for just not only getting the experience, but how they held up, especially when it comes to the rookies. Like, you can go through this rookie class, and I thought they had, for 2 days of practice against an opponent, pretty good. Like, Dexter flashed. Stevenson flashed. I didn't see any obvious issues with Darnell Wright in practice, which is good.
I mean, that blitz pickup and Kenny Moore is probably something to talk about, but he needs to have those type of experiences.
Yeah, and that's part where you're going up against an opponent. You don't exactly know what they're going to do every rep. That's why these are so valuable, because at this point at camp, Bears versus Bears, they kind of know exactly what's happening.
Yeah.
they picked it up. They practice against each other so much. So Zach Pickens, like guys like Pickens and Wright, I was like early on in camp, I'm like, all right, this is starting a little too slow for me, but they've really picked it up. And
Wright in particular.
Yeah.
And Pickens more than Dexter.
in terms of flashing,
Yes.
Yeah.
I thought it was notable when Andrew Billings left briefly in a team period on Wednesday that the first reserve defensive lineman that came on was not Javon Dexter, but Zach Pickens.
it is interesting. Yeah. Pickens has been working more at the 1 technique, by the way, with Dexter at the 3 technique.
So it could be a little bit of that.
Yeah, and that's how it looked like in the game last week too. So that's a great question, and fun to think about even on the spot. So hopefully, and Kent's asking this question, our producer: would you rather have Will Grier, currently the number 3 quarterback in Dallas? I don't know.
I don't know.
I haven't thought about that too much.
Would you play Tyson Bagent the entire game?
No, because PJ Walker needs to figure out whatever he needs to figure out.
I think his purpose on this team is more than actually playing well, which is kind of strange to say. But if you're going to tune in for anything on Saturday, watching the rookie, who's actually he had a really good day Thursday too. The kid's been good. He's gotten better.
He's interesting. I still don't know, are they going to keep 3 quarterbacks on the 53 with how PJ Walker's played? And if this rookie quarterback's really, come on as strong as he has? Because the other thing you risk is if you put him out there, he plays like the whole game Saturday and plays well, that's the type of guy that all of a sudden doesn't clear waivers.
Yeah.
If you're trying to get him to the practice squad.
And we talked about that with Ryan Bowles.
Yeah.
Another throwback to that episode.
Well, hopefully people have already watched it or listened to it. But if not, check it out right after this. All right. I think this is going to wrap it up for us in Indianapolis for the most part. Obviously, still got the game Saturday. We'll have you covered back in Chicago on CHGO, at least on pre and post. We'll have a 5 o'clock pregame and then a post-game show after that. Johns and I will get back together after the weekend to kind of wrap up everything we saw. You and the Fishman are swapping places.
Yes, he's coming down. I'm going home.
I like it.
He can watch the Justin Fields. This is Justin Fields less? No Fields on Saturday.
Yeah, he was probably.
I got to finish my coffee before I can
Yeah.
talk fully.
We won't talk about what time you woke up
You can't.
before the show.
I woke up like early. I'm like, I'll just get 15 more minutes more sleep, and I'll turn into about another hour and a half of sleep.
Oh boy,
And
you got the text about
rushed over here.
got the text about 15 minutes before
Man,
we're supposed to start.
like Herb said, I got 4 kids. Papa John's needs rest.
Yes, you do. You take advantage of these road trips.
If my wife is listening to this, she's probably rolling her eyes because she gets up before me. She's probably like, now I'm probably in trouble.
Yeah, but see, I had to take care of Braggs and Carm yesterday, which was harder than dealing with my 9 and
2-year-olds.
2-year-olds.
Yeah, this house must.
So I didn't get a break.
Yeah,
I didn't get a break.
yeah, babysitting.
So, all right. Appreciate everybody watching, listening. Thank you very much for all the comments on the polls interview. Anybody who was shouting us out from the stands in Indianapolis. So many Bears fans were down here, and A lot of Hoge Jahns listeners too. So we really appreciate that. Merch is going strong on Obvious shirts. Those polos.
Yeah, get them before they sell out.
We saw them in the stands here in Indianapolis, which was great to see. They look awesome. They're comfortable, high quality Adidas polos. So go get those. And I'm still trying to get confirmation on the hats, but I think they're coming.
Saw a couple of those hats here.
Yeah, some of the older ones. We got new ones coming, though. I'm telling you, they're going to be here, I promise. So keep an eye out for those. ObviousShirts.com is where the merchandise is. I think you could still get these, too, these JD shirts.
I think I need a new one.
So, all right. Any final thoughts?
No. Good trip. I like the location here. It made me miss Bourbonnais.
Same. I would not complain if the Bears decided to do this annually against the Colts down here.
Yeah. Well, you got to get them in the preseason schedule. Or not. Do you really have to?
But remember, the teams can kind of negotiate their games to a certain.
It's true.
So I think you do have to have them on the schedule. Although teams, I don't know if they've been doing it the last couple of years, but teams used to have early practices before the preseason games even started, like that week before.
Yes.
Based on what Flu said yesterday, I could see him doing 2 of these next year.
Yeah.
Maybe one at Hallis Hall, maybe one down here.
Is the Patriots the only team that we know who have done it twice in a year?
The Packers.
Have they?
The Packers did this year.
Did
the
they
Packers practiced against the Patriots this week, and they had the Bengals last week.
Wow.
Yeah. So
A lot of value in these.
more and more teams doing that, putting more emphasis on the practices than the preseason games, which is fine. It's all good work, and I'm entertained watching them. So there's that too.
It's better than a usual training camp practice.
It just changes
Especially at
things
this
up.
point.
Yeah, no question. All right. We'll follow us on Twitter. Again, ObviousShirts.com for the merch. Please rate and review the podcast. We appreciate all the comments. Help grow it. Send it to a friend. Most importantly, text the link to a friend. Say, hey, Bears fans, get on board, because this will be a fun season of football, in my opinion. I think we're going to have a great time, and we'll have you covered here all the time right here on Hoge and Jahns. So we'll talk to you early next week and recap everything from the Bears-Colts game.
See ya.